What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Everything Engines. Today we have some big plans. Been waiting to do this for a long time. Today is finally the day. Let me show y'all what we got going on here. That is right, we are upgrading our engine to stage 2 today. We have our ARC billet flywheel, 26-pound valve springs, side cover gasket, head gasket, new gas tank. I'm gonna have to polish that at some point. We have our ARC billet rod, we have our bearings for our billet rod, and we have our big hot 265 cam. Today I'm gonna be showing y'all how to put this on a Predator 212 Hemi engine. And yeah, and the day's finally come, so without further ado, let's get to building this engine. Start by draining your oil on either the front or back side of your block. Tilt the engine over to get any leftover or remaining oil out of your engine. Remove your clutch and clutch washer. Thoroughly wipe down your crankshaft and side cover to remove any metal shavings or grit that may be left over. Remove your gas tank using 10mm socket in the front. Unplug your spark plug boot. Using an 8mm socket, remove the back gas tank bolt. Remove your gas tank by pulling upward and then uninstall your fuel line, either by hand or using a pair of pliers. Remove your header using a 13mm socket. Unscrew the 4 bolts holding on your engine shroud using an 8mm socket. Remove your kill switch using a flathead screwdriver and prying up under it to remove it. Do this carefully because you can damage the paint and leave small dents in the engine shroud. You can now remove your spring and governor arm. I have my governor being bypassed by that spring that is holding the governor arm back, making it unavailable to engage. Now you can remove the governor arm using an 8mm socket. Now we can uninstall our heat shield. Remove the bolt holding the oil sensor to the bracket. Remove the 2 bolts holding on the starter coil with an 8mm socket. Take off your intake manifold using a 5mm Allen key. Remove the starter cup as well as the cooling fins and flywheel. To remove your flywheel, screw your starter bell nut back on to protect the threads on the crankshaft. Then grab yourself a pry bar and pry the flywheel outwards while hitting the nut with a hammer. Then unscrew the nut and remove the flywheel. Take out your spark plug using a 16mm deep well socket. Unscrew the 4 bolts holding on your valve cover with an 8mm socket. Now we will unscrew our 6 10mm bolts to take off our side cover. Remove the stock cam by simply pulling outwards. Now we can remove our tappets as well as our push rods. Now we can remove our oil sensor. This will free up space for our new parts as well as increase oil capacity inside the block. Don't forget to thoroughly wipe down the inside of the block to remove any remaining oil or grime that the block may contain. Now you can loosen the rod bolts using a 10mm wrench. Remove the 4 head bolts using a 12mm socket. Now you can remove your crankshaft by pulling outwards. Reach in the block and push the rod upward, ejecting the piston from the cylinder. Now you can finally uninstall your oil sensor. Now that the block is empty, you can remove your governor gear and leftover governor parts. After removing your oil sensor and governor, make sure to thoroughly check your block for any washers. Use a hammer and punch to tap out the governor gear. I do not have a punch, so I'll be using this small Allen bit. Like I said earlier, remember to thoroughly check your block for washers after removing these parts. They are held on with grease and can be very easy to miss. Use 7/16 self-tapping bolts to plug the governor gears. Use a 7/16 tap to tap the oil sensor hole. Plug the oil sensor hole with a 7/16 bolt. Today we will use a 20 thousandths head gasket from Go Power Sports. Scrape off the old head gasket with a razor blade. Once the head gasket has been removed, don't forget to scrape off any leftover material. There are a few different ways to go by checking oil clearance, but today we will use a caliper. Start off by measuring different parts of the crank journal and making sure they are even and within spec of the note that comes with the rod. Now you can remove your governor gear off your crankshaft. This will decrease the rotational mass inside the engine and prevent it from coming loose and damaging your engine. Install your crankshaft back into your engine and install your new cam. Don't forget to line up the timing dots on the crankshaft and cam. Now I am turning the crankshaft to make sure that we have the clearance that we need and no parts are hitting each other. Remove the piston from the rod by popping out the C-clip on the side of the wrist pin using a pick. After this, you can slide out your wrist pin and pull off your piston. When installing your new rod onto your piston, you want to make sure that the arrow on your piston is facing down as well as the oil dipper stick on your rod. Then install your wrist pin and snap the C-clip back into place. To install the bearings on your rod and rod cap, make sure you line up the notches on the rod cap and the bearing. Make sure the bearing is pushed all the way over and the hole on the bearing and rod cap are in the line with each other. Remove the timing key off of your crankshaft using a hammer and flathead screwdriver. Now we can lap our flywheel using valve grounding compound. Grab a pea-size amount and place it on the inside of your billet flywheel. Then install your flywheel on the crankshaft and twist them back and forth until the two surfaces are bonded. Wipe the compound off the crankshaft and inside of the flywheel. You will know your crankshaft has been lapped when it looks like it has been sanded down like this. Remove the leftover compound inside of the keyway on your crankshaft using a Q-tip. Before we install our new parts, make sure you thoroughly wipe down the inside of the block to remove any oil or grit that may be left over. Don't forget to wipe out your crankshaft bearing and inside the cylinder. Now we can install our crankshaft. Reinstall the crankshaft key using a pair of pliers. If that doesn't do the trick, lightly tap the key back in with a hammer. Oil up the inside of the cylinder using 10W30 motor oil. Put your piston in a ring compressor and leave the ears of the piston exposed. Then slide your piston into your cylinder and lightly tap the compressor with a hammer to seat the piston. Now use the back end of a hammer to tap the piston into the cylinder. When installing your piston, make sure the arrow on top of the piston is facing down. Oil both bearings on your rod and rod cap. Oil your rod bolts and then install them into the rod cap. To torque your rod cap, start at 60 inch-pounds and work your way up 20 inch-pounds at a time until you reach 170 inch-pounds. We made higher jumps in pounds, but I don't recommend you do this. Install your new billet flywheel and put on your starter cup and nut. We used a homemade crankshaft stopper to torque down the flywheel. Torque down the flywheel to 54 foot-pounds. Using a pick, uninstall your lash caps. While changing your springs, don't forget to place a paper towel underneath the head so that the valves don't fall out while changing your springs. So here's the comparison between springs. On the left we have the stock 18-pound springs, and on the right we have the aftermarket 26-pound springs. As you can see, the coil thickness is a lot different. Now you can install your new springs and place the retainers on top. The retainers have a keyhole shape to them, so to install the spring you must compress it till the tip of the valve goes through the fat side of the keyhole. Then to make sure it is locked into place, push the spring over so that the tip of the valve is in the skinny side of the keyhole. Now you can reinstall your lash caps by firmly pressing them into the center of the retainers. Oil and reinstall your tappets. For this build, I'm using the Hot 265 cam from Go Power Sports. Install your new cam and don't forget to line up the timing dots on the cam and crankshaft. Now install your head gasket. This is a 10 thousandths head gasket from Go Power Sports. I didn't get this part on video, but install your head bolts and torque it down to 17 foot-pounds or 204 inch-pounds. To set your valve lash, place your finger over the spark plug hole and rotate the crankshaft to feel for the compression stroke. Touch the piston with a straw and rotate the crank until the piston is at its highest position. This is where you will set your valve lash. Use the adjuster screw to adjust the amount of distance between the lash cap and the rocker. Use a 30 thousandths feeler gauge to set this distance. Once you have set the valve lash to 30 thousandths, you can then tighten down your adjuster screw. You should be able to snugly fit the 30 thousandths feeler gauge in, and the 40 thousandths should not fit. Then place a 30 thousandths feeler gauge in between the flywheel and the starter coil. Then you can push down on the starter coil and tighten it back up. Sorry for missing this part too, but reinstall the side cover and torque down to 17 foot-pounds or 204 inch-pounds. Reinstall your valve cover. Then install your spark plug and carburetor. Don't forget to reinstall your heat shield. Now you can install your engine shroud and pull start, and this build is complete. Alright guys, this concludes the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it this far, don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave some suggestions or video ideas. Guys, I apologize for all the videos we missed. Thankfully, most of it was simple stuff, and there's plenty of videos on YouTube. And it's pretty self-explanatory, like the kill switch and stuff like that, which you just pop right into the engine shroud. So, sorry about that, but next video we'll be testing this engine on my bike, and we'll be doing the first stage 2 test run. So, I'm looking forward to that, but I'll see y'all in the next one.